Everyone. I'm just going to share the screen, so we'll just get going on that level so we can see. Um, all right, can everyone see that?
Yep.
All right, so what I'm going to talk about this morning, it's going to be fast paced because we've only got a short amount of time. But one of the things that I've been seeing over recently is people are struggling to understanding I guess a meaning, a greater meaning or a purpose. So today I'm going to talk about the power of purpose. All right, so in this webinar, I'm going to define what purpose is and examine the importance of having a purpose. And of course, I'm going to talk about achieving greatness as well. I'll look at purpose in business and then how to discover your purpose in life and the role passion plays in discovering it. All right, so just a bit of background for myself, for those that I'm just going to admit someone. I'm the founder of BCF Coaching Academy. I'm also an entrepreneur and educator. I've been an educator for a while, and I'll explain that in a moment. But I run a program called Startup Fundamentals, and it helps small businesses or people with ideas for a product or service who want to launch their prototype or MVP within 90 days. So it's a fast-paced program that I run called Startup Fundamentals. I've been a serial entrepreneur for 28 years. I've also been a business coach and mentor for over 16 years. And I've been helping educate entrepreneurs for over a decade. So I was a former university lecturer in entrepreneurship and also a course writer and developer in entrepreneurship courses. I'm also an author and writer, but I'm mainly passionate about entrepreneurship, innovation, and education. So they're my core focuses. So I just want to begin with the question, what's your why? All right, so as we go through this journey, this half an hour journey, I want you to think about what is your why? Now, to begin with, many of us sail or drift through life without very little thought about it. And it's like a ship without a rudder, sailing aimlessly and not knowing the destination or even having a course. However, as the world changes rapidly in very unexpected ways, and especially over the last year, it's given us a reason to start looking for greater meaning in our lives. And I believe that we've also hit a new evolution of consciousness as well. So I think this has been triggered by the global pandemic. I think it was always coming, but I think it's now it's even more greater. And there's some things in our lives that we've been neglecting, and now they've become very, very important to us. Things like family and friends, lifestyle, and also health. And some of us may even be thinking, what if I were to die tomorrow? Now, that's a thought. Often most of us do get. And the thing is, I guess, what is the legacy that you want to leave? And here is a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes. He was an American physician, writer, and poet. And he said, most of us go to our graves with our music still inside us unplayed. And all of us have a purpose in life, yet many of us never discover it. And as humans, it's our birthright to do this, to have this. And most of us just follow a program, and a program which is set by family, society, our culture, governments, and that is get educated, get a job, go to work every day, get married, buy a house, get a mortgage, become a slave to debt, raise a family, and then retire. We're trapped in, I guess, the cycle of eat, work, entertain, sleep, repeat. And as I call it, it's called the cycle of the hamster. And as you can see on the right cartoon on the right-hand side, it says, when I need a fresh start, I just go the other way, which is very appropriate. And then we ultimately die, having lived an unfulfilled life and never fulfilling our life's purpose. So I just wanted to define what purpose is. And according to the Oxford Dictionary, purpose is the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. Now, that's a pretty loose definition, so I'll just go a little bit more into that. It's qualities what define who you are and what makes you distinctive. It's your brand, what you are driven to achieve, and the magic that makes you tick. And there's a paper written about purpose as well from Craig and Snook, all right? It's called From Purpose to Impact. And they argue that it's not what you do, but rather how you do things and why. It's the strengths and passions you bring to the table, no matter where you're seated. And it's what everyone close to you recognizes as uniquely you and would miss the most if you were gone. So then, what is our purpose in life? Well, I believe it's to find your gift. Apart from being happy, of course, it is to find your gift. And we all have a gift or gifts, right? So most people never discover their gift or gifts. And the ultimate form of a gift is to bring joy, love, and happiness to others. So then what is your gift? Well, your gift or gifts can come in many different forms. Now, common examples might include things like creative pursuits, as we all know, things like music, art, writing, performance, but it's not limited to creative pursuits. It can be intellectual pursuits, things like sciences, teaching, communication, leadership, problem solving, and listening and understanding is a gift as well, but also sporting pursuits. And there are many, many other things as well that I just can't mention, otherwise we'd be here for half a day. However, many people are never able to discover their gifts. And here is quite an interesting quote here. And it says, "What fascinates me is that hardly anyone is wondering what we're actually doing on this planet. Most accepted the work, eat, entertainment, sleep cycle as life and have no desire for a deeper understanding of our purpose in this universe." And here is a quote by author Mark Twain. And he says, "The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." And if you use your gifts to help others, then you may be destined to achieve greatness. So where does greatness originate from? Well, here's a quote by George Washington. And he said, "Greatness comes from a willingness to do things not for yourself, but for others." And we all have an opportunity to be great. So you want to ask yourself, what legacy do I want to leave before I die? And here's another quote by George Washington. He says, "We are not born great, but we take a journey towards greatness throughout our lives." And here is another quote by Anatole France, and he was a French poet and journalist. And he said, to accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream, not only plan, but also believe. I think that's a great quote there. You don't have to aspire to be the next Mother Teresa, Gandhi, or Nelson Mandela to be great. Greatness comes in many forms. Examples can include raising good children who are active members of society, being an active member of your community, helping reduce others' suffering, championing animal welfare or the environment, or even perhaps a giver of love, kindness, and compassion. But it's not limited to these things as well. And most of us squander the opportunity to be great by leading frivolous, unimaginative lives with no purpose or meaning. And here is a great quote by Oprah Winfrey. And she says, "Live your life to a purpose." And why would we say that? Because then it will have more meaning and it can become much more interesting and exciting. And also when challenges arise, you'll have a reason to solve them rather than just give up. And this is a hallmark of great leaders and entrepreneurs. So then, if your life has a purpose, you'll be driven to create a change in its course. And that's where the magic of life begins. So what are the benefits of having a purpose in life? Well, it has been demonstrated that people who have a purpose in life lead a happier and more fulfilled life. And there are also many positive mental and physical health benefits associated with having a purpose, and which leads to a healthier life. And furthermore, studies have shown that ex-prisoners and ex-drug addicts who go on to find a purpose in life have lower recidivism or repeat offending rates than others, right? So why is that? Because their lives now have new meaning and new value. So here's a quote that I love, and I always say, business must be for profit, but profit must also be for purpose. Now, some of you may have remembered Milton Friedman, for those of you in the sort of older generation, but he was an economist that from the 1970s, and he was responsible for Reaganism and things like the conservative values of Margaret Thatcher. And he said the social responsibility for business is to increase profits for the company. And you make as much money as possible while conforming to the basic rules of society. Now that ideal is really gone out of the door, basically, because the purpose of a business should go beyond just making money. And as fellow humans, we all have a social responsibility to build a better and fairer world. So a business's core purpose must be based on its core ideology and core values. So what does it believe in? And what's its philosophy? Now, you want to try and develop a purpose free from money. So ask yourself, how could you develop the purpose of your business so that if you woke up tomorrow morning with enough money in the bank to retire, you would nevertheless keep working? And what deeper sense of purpose would motivate you to continue to dedicate your precious creative energies to the business or company's efforts? And remember, it's not always about the money. And here's a quote from PwC, from a paper from PwC. And it says 93% of CEOs say it's important their organization has a strong corporate purpose that's reflected in its value, culture, and behaviors. A business must live by its core purpose in order to be seen as authentic and genuine, which is really, really important these days. And people are seeking purpose in a business. So it doesn't matter if you're a customer or employee or an investor. What people are seeking is authenticity and organizations to live up to their words, because people are now tuned into corporate spin and false corporate social responsibility claims and greenwash. So I ask you, what message does your business want to send to its customers and stakeholders, including family and friends? And Craig and Snook argue that purpose has now become vital for the success of individuals and organizations. And there's no other development task that is actually critical to leaders as developing one's purpose and taking action to realize that purpose. And here is another quote from another PwC paper, and it says, why is it important? Well, 96% of CEOs say it's important for leaders to explain how company values influence business decisions on support of purpose. So finding your purpose, how do you find your purpose? Well, it has to be discovered. And you are the only one that can do that. And it's a part of your soul in essence, and what makes you, you. And no one can force you, persuade you, command you, show you tough love, etc. Certainly you can get guided by your gurus or mentors, but ultimately it's up to you. And the future of your life is in your hands. And here is another quote by Oprah, and she says, "Follow your passion. It will lead you to your purpose." So then, where do we start to discover your purpose? Well, the Japanese have a concept called ikigai. Some of you may have seen this. So it's a combination of what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And at the intersection, it's known as the ikigai. Now, it's a Japanese term for a reason for being. Now, the word ikigai usually refers to the source of values in one's life or the things that make one's life worthwhile. And everyone has an ikigai according to the Japanese, but it requires, I guess, a deep sense and a long search of self to find it. So when developing your life's purpose, use the concept of ikigai. And by adhering to these principles, it can lead you to a fulfilled life full of happiness and joy. And it's really an evolution of the principle, the Western principle. If you love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life. And here's a great quote by Steve Jobs: "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." So then why don't most people discover their purpose in life? Well, if you haven't been able to discover your purpose, there may be a range of reasons. And it's most likely you're struggling or too busy on the treadmill of life, or just being able to keep your head above water, sort of managing your life, your rent, food, your children's needs, electricity, etc. Our modern lives have a way of keeping us distracted or occupied to stop us finding our real purpose. And when we dig deeper, it often comes down to one main factor, and that is having been provided the wrong roadmap in life. And this often leads to making the wrong or poor life choices, developing poor judgmental skills, and also listening to the wrong people or even society itself. So judgment, well, successful people have excellent judgment skills. And definition of judgment, it's the process of an evaluation of evidence to make a considered decision. Now, a judgment can lead to a life-changing event. So good can lead to ultimate success. Bad may have disastrous consequences or even jail or death. So sometimes, unless we're forced to actually confront difficult things in our lives, we don't confront them. And it's not necessarily out of laziness, but out of fear. And often comes from not having the correct combination of factors such as guidance, motivation, boundaries, insight, intelligence, wisdom, education, and courage to take the personal responsibility required to change your life. And here is a great quote: "Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will." Most people live a life of fear, which is stopping them from going beyond their comfort zones and thus never given a real opportunity to grow. So here's the comfort zone concept. And the first zone, what we call the comfort zone, where you're safe and in control, it's low risk, low reward. And that's what I call the lazy, mediocre zone. The next zone is what we call the fear zone. And that is low self-confidence, finding excuses, you're affected by others' opinions. And most people never get past this zone. But really where you want to be is the next zone and beyond. So the learning zone. And this is where you learn to learn. So you face challenges, problem solve, acquire new skills, and extend the comfort zone. But if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur or leader, you really need to master this zone. And that is things like what's called the growth zone, but things like find purpose, live your dreams, set new goals, and conquer objectives. So always begin by asking the why question. So if my life is not going in the direction I want, if not, why not? Am I achieving my goals in life? If not, why not? Am I growing as a person? If not, why not? So is it time to rethink your situation? And be honest with yourself and start asking, what is holding me back? So let's talk about living a life of passion. And here is a great quote by our famous friend, Elon Musk. And he says, I've met 0 billionaires or multimillionaires that hate what they do. They all do things they love. They all do stuff they are good at, which fuels their passion. What a great quote that is. So living a life of passion. Some of us lead a life without passion. And certainly passion can be a double-edged sword. Too much passion can be delusional, leading to cognitive biases or cognitive dissonance, and not being able to develop reasoning or rational thoughts. On the other hand, not having passion can lead to an empty life with no ambition, just existing. I'm sure many of us can relate to that. But a life of passion is a life well lived. And passion is a great thing, but don't be blinded by it. So why is passion important? Well, if we have unwavering passion, this leads to a developing what we call a burning desire or calling. And if that calling is strong enough, it will lead to commitment, which is a precursor to success. And here's a quote by Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he says, passion is a powerful force. If properly directed, it is unstoppable. And the secret of passion is purpose. So talking about commitment, which is the hallmark of success, commitment combined with the right action will get you results regardless of your current circumstances or your availability of resources, because you will find a way if you are very passionate and committed. And these are the fundamental attributes to being successful, whether it's for personal or business success. And your commitment is your power. So don't blow it. Now, here is a great video by Lisa Alderson, and it's called Dare to Stretch Your Boundaries. Now, of course, it runs for about 55 minutes, so we won't get into that. But you can find out if you Google it. And Lisa Alderson is CEO and founder of Genome Medical Incorporated. And Genome Medical is a nationwide telehealth practice in the US that provides expert genetic healthcare for individuals and their families to improve their health and well-being. So the link is down the bottom, but I'm going to summarize it quickly. We've got a few more minutes. So she says, as most people fundamentally resist change, her I guess advice is embrace change and be adaptable. Take on new experiences and invigorate your curiosity and spend time doing what you love. And try to pursue something where you're uniquely able to create value and add value. Now, you may not find initially, but it can be something you find over time. So she further says, work out how you can turn your hobby into a paid pursuit and take the big leap and put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And this is where you learn. And talk to as many people as possible. And for those of you in business, what you want to do is create a rapid cycle of product development and get to the market as quick as possible and get customer feedback on this. So this is really, really good advice. All right, so that brings us to the end. And like I said earlier on, it is short and sharp because we're limited on time. So what I want to do is switch back to the main screen. And if you have any questions in the last few minutes, we can have them.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you very much for that presentation, right. Toby.
That was short and sharp.
Yeah. I'm going to stop recording now.